I'm Khadija. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here at my first ICANN meeting. I'm going to be presenting on a topic that's fairly close to my heart, and that is the gender digital divide and the importance of material access. And so I'm specifically looking at Pakistan and rural Pakistan in particular, as that's my research focus in this presentation. But there are absolutely global implications and takeaways, particularly for countries with similar observed gender divides. To briefly cover my agenda, I'll first introduce the gender digital divide, then delve into my research focus, which is the importance of considering material access. I'm going to be supplementing this with narratives from people on the ground and make some recommendations, potential ways to think about how we address the digital divide going forward, which I do recognize is a noted focus for ICANN. The digital divide refers to inequality between groups with access to technology and digital resources and those without. Let's talk numbers. An estimated 244 million fewer women than men have access to the internet on a global scale. Looking in Pakistan, women are 67% less likely to have access to the internet, and that's compared to a 12.5% gender gap on a global basis. In rural Pakistan, only 7% of women have access. These numbers only tell half the story. Keep in mind, 83.5% of women who did report having access to digital resources said that their spouse or parents dictated their ownership and usage of this technology. Does this constitute access? So why does this matter? On a base level, the digital divide is a threat to achieving ICANN's multi-stakeholder model. We want these women represented. We want them to be able to contribute and shape and benefit from the internet as we do. But more broadly, there are key economic and social benefits to digital inclusion, specifically through bridging this divide. I'll be brief here, though I am open to discussing any of these further later. Essentially, digital inclusion facilitates financial independence, social inclusion and mobility, and access to key support communities. It helps businesses and the labor force too. It's estimated that Pakistan's GDP could grow by 60% if women were to be more represented in the formal economy, particularly through the tech industry. Speaking as a Pakistani, it's concerning that our ranking is currently second from last in the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Index. This is a rank that has dropped in recent years. Digital inclusion is an important step, though just one, in addressing issues of gender parity. Where does material versus physical access come into this whole debate? Well, it comes from Van Dijk's research on the digital divide, which has shaped our understandings of how to address inequalities. The digital divide generally is referred to as a multi-level issue. The first level is issues of physical access. That refers to infrastructure, physical provision of resources such as computers, phones, and internet cables. The second level is material access, which is digital literacy, motivation, and the ability to leverage benefits. For example, can you get a job in tech if you are pursuing tech-based education? Can you actually participate on the internet? These levels come with assumptions. Prioritizing the first level, as we can assume by the name, remains the convention. But I would argue that material access is just as important, particularly given global budget constraints and existing stigma, particularly in rural Pakistan. This is not to say that we don't need physical access to infrastructure. I'm simply challenging the division. I believe the assumption that you can have access that is purely physical or purely material appears to be a fallacy. Accessible and affordable digital literacy education, as one example, can help women develop careers in tech and contribute to the formal economy. Using local scripts and languages relevant to ICANN's efforts can help facilitate easier engagement. Awareness can help women and other groups raise needs and concerns about infrastructure in the first place to representatives or non-commercial organizations, including all those at ICANN. Access without usage is hardly access at all. I believe the best way to exemplify this is through stories. So we have the example of Shyla, who owned digital devices, but her father and brothers discouraged internet use because they believed it was unsafe for her. They were simply looking out for her. After digital literacy classes, she was able to initiate discussions that changed their minds, and she now runs an online business. Take the case of Sabiha. She and her daughter run an institute teaching differently abled girls how to knit, crochet, and other skills that enable confidence and financial independence, even if just through small-scale sales. Learning how to use social media allowed her to grow a supportive community and engage other women in the same institute. This is a form of upskilling that goes beyond one person's efforts. And Aisha, who did not even want to think about pursuing a career in tech because she was afraid of the transport it would require to get to the office. Being able to learn how to work remotely changed her career trajectory. She is now able to work in the tech field and is currently enrolled at a STEM school to continue learning. I'd like to leave a few recommendations here so we can continue to have success stories. Alongside the provision of physical infrastructure, I think there is a great need to focus on skill development. What does that mean? It's digital literacy education. It's accessible, whether that means using local scripts, and supportive classes. There's a need to address issues of motivation. Storytelling, its support for local female entrepreneurs, awareness and inclusion at funding events like the She Loves Tech conference, or inclusion at events like ICANN. Its policies that make formal workplaces safer and either address travel concerns or provide remote alternatives. And across both, we need to address the stigma, particularly in a context where women are continuously being told that the internet is unsafe, inappropriate, or simply not for them. I'm here today because I had material access, a supportive community, a safe way to travel, and digital literacy education. But I am one voice currently speaking for many. I can only tell a small part of the story. So I hope that we can work towards bridging the digital gender divide so that tomorrow, next year, at the next ICANN conference, other women from my community, from rural Pakistan, or from others can come forward and make their own unique, important contributions. I think there's a lot for us to learn and develop yet. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Khadija. That was great. As a woman, I thank you for that. Any questions for Khadija in the room? Alfredo, please.
Thank you, Alfredo, and I'm going to speak in English. If I may, the presentation that Miracle made ties directly with your presentation, and I would suggest both of you to consider seriously, as Roberto mentioned, there's an organization within ICANN that can help you out, amplify your message, which is at large. The second thing I want to sort of ask you, are you aware that within ICANN, you can reach out to any constituency and deliver this message so that they are aware of the need of educating the civil society and your communities is necessarily. I have to mention that as a fellow, one of the things that I have done is serve as a voice of ICANN to my community. And with the help of ICANN, we have managed, using the resources that IT and CTO have, deliver courses to underserved communities within my community. So I exhort you to do the same thing. Approach the different groups within ICANN to help you out, deliver your message. ICANN has the resources, and they are eager to spread the word. And you are the people that we need in ICANN to do that. So thank you for both presentations. I encourage you to reach out to me, to Roberto, to your mentors, even to Siranuch and Fernanda, because we can help you get the word out and do what you're thinking of doing. Thank you.
Quickly, please, Roberta.
It's not a question, it's a comment. Is in the community, there's something that is surfacing now, this concept of meaningful access versus just a normal access. So people are starting asking not just for the plain connection to 256K, but the meaningful access. That's a different concept. Maybe we can talk about that later.